I have been a coaching consultant for NRG, need to be doing better than that, right? I'm angry. Give me my job back. So we had an interesting weekend for North American RLCS. For me specifically, compared to normal, I love to look at the North American games, but this time I had a team to invest in because I have been a coaching consultant for Knights, who their history recently, just to show their North American full split, in the first closed qualifier, they did well, made it through there, made through the open qualifier, easy peasy. Close qualifier, made it in. That first regional, they were one game away from making it. And actually, you'll see that their performance, they started off beating Optic, huge. Lost to G2, fair enough. Lost to NRG, fair enough. Beat Seoul, and then had version 1. So getting that beat over Optic was huge for them, but then they also had some pretty tough opponents, and they just couldn't quite break through, right? So you go, fair enough. Potential to make a top 8 there. And we watched some of their gameplay, actually watched the Optic game, and I was like, oh, you know what, they look pretty solid. And then when it came to the full cup closed qualifier, unfortunately, they just missed out on qualifying. And if you look here at the results, 3-0 Ghost, 3-0 Seoul, went up against Complexity. Now, Complexity, I've watched this match, and honestly, it was Knight's game to lose. Like, they were up. They were doing well, they were playing well, and then it just sort of didn't quite work out for them. They started to underperform a bit, get a bit panicky. And then the same thing was true in these last 2 games. It was a little bit rushed, a little bit panicky, couldn't quite close out the closed qualifier. So, they missed out on the second regional, the full cup. And that was definitely a bit of a wake-up call for them. At this point, I'm talking with Knights. They want to get someone involved to try and help them out, give them some advice around the structure. And I've had a lot of people asking, what does a coaching consultant do? And to put it simply, a coaching consultant is someone who comes in to support a system already. I've come in before, like in E United back in season 9. And in that situation, I came in, they didn't have a coach. They did have a coach, but they chose not to use their coach anymore. I came in and coached the team for a month and a half. So I was a replacement, like a short-term freelance replacement. This one, Lando is still the coach. I came in, support Lando in structuring training and everything, support the players, come in and coach them a little bit as well, of course. And so I'm basically like a second coach, second set of eyes, and I created a system that I believed was much more professional for them as a team. I also did some performance psychology and basically worked closely with them to try and develop the 3 players. Now, the 3 players are amazing. I'm going to be fans of these guys for as long as they're competing. All are lovely, lovely players, and they're so friendly, so kind, such good vibes as a team, and they very much welcomed me in instantly. And so we all love these players. Interestingly, actually, Cheese is the first player who started on Nintendo Switch to make a regional, I believe. And there he was in the top 8. So definitely one to watch for the future. Sosa, CRL player, Zombie, super solid player, plays that kind of Itachi role really well. And then Lando, I've not seen a coach keep the vibes in a team as good as Lando. And me and Lando have actually been playing a lot of ranked as well, outside of just coaching, just because we get on. So we have a good little duo, me and Lando. Lead up to the event, we did some performance psychology and we worked on some techniques around that. And then also on the performance day on Friday, I got a huge buzz being part of a team again. It's been so long since I've been in a team, so it was amazing to experience that with them and get back into that coaching side of things. So I'm definitely excited at getting involved in coaching again in the future. So that's that. But today we are going to be analysing this match here, NRG versus Knights. So, there was obviously the whole joke around, Gregan can go join NRG after the SIS situation. And I was available if they wanted me, but I think there's other things going on beyond just needing a good coach in that team. And I think it's coming through on stuff like social media, it's coming through in their gameplay. So I'll have a little look at their gameplay now and see what's going on. And I'll be interested to see what they do reactively to this regional, whether they're going to make a change on the pitch, whether they're all going to get motivation back after a nice long break, and what's going to happen there. Because Knights, we played really well in this match against NRG, I have to say. Let's go look at the stats. As you can see, so yeah, the stats here, the first thing that stands out to me looking at this was, firstly, shooting percentage is really high here for Knights. Similar amount of shots, it's just we were able to defend them out with a good structure, whereas they weren't able to defend our shots. So it's a little bit on NRG, but a little bit on the way these guys are playing, averaging almost 3 goals a game. A lot of assists as well. What's this? This is 2.5 assists per game, 2.75 goals per game, so really well assisted. Cheese gets a lot of saves because he sits quite deep. Zombie with all the demos, we love this. He's playing this sort of disruptor role really well. Cheese and Sosa looking amazing though. But yeah, so that's the stats on the Knight side. So good stuff from Zombie. And then on the other side, Justin's getting a good amount of points, but just not getting the goals. Mostly points through saves here. And again, just see the shooting percentage here. It's just not quite that same level. We will have a look at the other stats real quick. Sosa's boost management is improved a lot. Really good stuff from him. Keeps his boost really high. Cheese is a bit more rushy, like charge down player, a bit more like your exotics or your LJs or your chronics, that kind of thing, right? Garrett, typical high average boost. Squishy's boost quite high here. No pads though. It's just the pads, right? NRG's boost profiles always strike me as a problem, right? They're so reliant on the hundreds, and it opens up so much space in the midfield because they're constantly going off to the hundreds. They've been doing that since the full major last year when they played against BDS. This was my biggest highlight from them, was that BDS used pads and NRG didn't. So that's something that they need to work on in the future as individuals and potentially as a team. Who knows what will happen? Yeah, I mean, well, I just want to watch some gameplay. You guys want to watch some gameplay? Do you want to watch some gameplay? Let's watch some gameplay. I think that's from when I first moved into the old flat, actually. Okay. Really nice there from Cheese. Good continuation from Zombie. So you can see this is where NRG really struggled against Knights. So what has happened right here is a slight overcommit from Knights, right? So you can see, to be fair, it was a hard read against Zombie here. But you see how Sos and Zombie have both landed overcommitted. Sos has got boost to recover and can get a potential bump and stuff like that. And Cheese is already back. But right here, this is an overcommitment. And so this situation is one which NRG could have punished Knights on more, and I think is what SSG did really well. And that's why SSG were able to beat Knights, is because they punished the overcommitment. But yeah, NRG was struggling to punish overcommitment. Cheese taking his time here. Taking Squishy out of the game. Fakes it, bumps Garrett, and bumps on the way through. Oh, beautiful. So you can see the bumps were working really well against NRG, and everyone knows bumps work well against NRG. Yeah, Cheese just leaving that ball, such good comms. But you can just see how NRG are just one bump or two away from conceding. Like the challenge game and the bumps there really did break them down. Just so that, again, a little bit of an overcommitment from Knights. You see here, Cheese, good little fake. Zombie rushed that jump a little bit. Could have waited a second longer there. Then we'll watch Sos. Just getting a little bit too close and then misreading it. And that's just pressure, right? Like, pressure affects everyone. But yeah, that's the main thing that Knights need to work on, is dealing with pressure. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of the emerging teams in a region. And it's why, like, experienced players tend to play more consistently, just because they're used to an environment. Really nice shot here. You see Zombie, absolute nuisance. Zombie takes control of Justin's ball, keeps it close. Garrett's a bit stuck alone, and Justin's got to watch out for the bump. So Zombie just creating that space, beautifully done. Just waiting here. So look, you see this whole play here, right? Like, Zombie can just wait for Justin to finish flying with this ball. Look how much boost is being used by Justin. And then Zombie just literally flies up, takes it away. And that's technically now an overcommit, because it takes him a while to get back. Oh, Zombie! Zombie played really well. And very, like, underappreciated, I think, this kind of role. Just look at the constant disruption Zombie's pulling off. It's really good. This one's great from Squishy's point of view. Let me just do a little play here. Where's he come from? What's he doing there? So watch this here. Gets that intercept. Takes the ball on the wall. Patience. Lovely patience. Into a 50-50. Like, against teams like NRG, because they haven't got very good pressure on the ball, you just need to take your time, because they play off of people rushing. And like you can see here, if you just take your time, get a good 50, stay close to the ball, get that boost, play for another 50, right? And you just play off the 50s. It's really nice. Okay, this is a kind of rough situation here. Oh, Cheese has done so well. Avoids Squishy up the wall there. Closes down that angle, forces Justin wide. Like, this is where, you know, you go, Knights, you've overcommitted, right? This is where NRG need to be able to turn this into a goal, right? And I think, genuinely, I do believe that better teams could have turned that into a goal right there. You know, like, Knights have overcommitted. Knights are not getting punished for it because Cheese has done well to recover it. And, like, obviously, it's still an individual skill and mechanic to be able to recover rough situations like that. So, like, you got to still say fair play to Cheese for being able to turn that back into control. But NRG need to be doing better than that, right? And that's one of the big things they're struggling with. They're like, their structure's kind of there. Like, they have a reasonable structure. It's just lacking the execution in those high-pressure moments, lacking the trust in their own mechanics to be covered by teammates and things like that. Again, it's just take the ball for the air dribble, right? Like, Justin so often just pops the ball up and starts an air dribble. And, like, with a good structure, you literally can 50 it, bump them, or force them into a direction they don't want to be. And it can punish them. In this situation, it kind of worked because Cheese and Zombie didn't quite link up here, right? Like, Cheese had the time to take control of that himself, or put that in a better position for Zombie. But in the end, Squishy actually did really well here. Great first touch, great pass middle, great save. Just unfortunate, really. Like, Squishy did really well there. Happens. It's just one of those, right? Like, where you cannot catch a break sometimes when you're playing Rocket League, and you have to be able to not get tilted by it. And I do wonder if they were getting frustrated. Yeah, it was just that was a garbage time goal of NRG were trying to force a goal because they would, wouldn't they, at that time? Okay. Let's watch this next game here. Again, like, the NRG offense is, I'm going to use 100 boost to start an air dribble. And, like, it's just so frequently going to be negative value, right? Flying up, using 100 boost when the opponents can just chill and wait and then pick up on it. You're more likely to overcommit than you are to not. So they need to come up with much more creative. Look, again, it's literally every single time, right? Like, it's not deadly. Like, going up for an air dribble is not dangerous the way people play Rocket League now. Again, Justin, I'm just going to use 100 boost to fly up and try something. It's almost like in their heads they've gone, we need to do more solo plays, but then the way they think of doing solo plays is to do it that way. This is really nice here by Cheese. He tried going for the bump rather than the play, probably called it as well. Cheese, touched it down middle. Delayed shot. Waiting, faking, coming in, Zombie. Goes for a 50-50. Like right here, Zombie's going to fly up. He's going to get a flip reset. Cool, faking it, and they score, right? Yeah, burns all the boost, ends up nowhere. Not really that deceptive, but like, you just see the, do you see the variety in touches here from Knights versus what NRG are doing? You know, like at this point here, from Zombie, right? So like, right at this point here, let's see, who's most likely to go for this? Garrett. What's Zombie doing in the next second or two from Garrett's point of view? No one knows. Garrett's gone to the backboard because he thought he might hit it to the backboard. Justin jumped down for the backboard because he's gone, oh crap, he's not in it to the backboard. Squishy's out the play because he flew at the last thing. And Sosa's just sitting underneath him like, I'll take it. Right? So it's about mixing up the ways you go, because then it's really hard to defend. When they're just doing this air dribbling stuff, Knights can just sit deep and just wait for them to air dribble, then fly up to it, right? Because even if you're not conscious of people taking the same options, you do start to download the habits that people have. Right, look at this, right? Zombie into the corner, doubles it, awkward for the opponents. Delayed 50-50 from Sosa, takes out two players, rotates away from the play. Zombie's coming in, fakes it. Squishy's gone for an air dribble. Cheese just bumps him off. Sosa goes for an air dribble on this occasion and just looks to pop it high, right? And then rotate out. So, like, you can chuck in those air dribbles every now and again, like we just saw there from Sos. But like, it's about mixing it up. And right now, there's just not enough variety and threat with the options that NRG are taking. This series, NRG could have done better, right? Like, they had the situations where they could have done better, but they lacked the execution in those moments to do it. Again, look. What's the option? Air dribble. And then we compare that to, like, Sosa's touch here, right? Look at this, right? Cheese, 50-50s it across, Sosa's in space, puts it up to the wall. Awkward location for Garrett. Uses the space well. Cheese is in the middle. Justin and Garrett aren't covering enough options. So it's so much about the option selection right now that's letting NRG down as well. Like, they have a reasonably good structure, right? It's not that bad, right? Like, they're all right. It's just their decisions lead them to have such little value as the first person. So, like, right here, Zombie should just ignore the full commitment on the bump. I think that was a little bit of a let's tilt squishy bump rather than an actual well-thought-out bump. So, you can see where the goal conceding happens here. Zombie overcommits on bump. Sosa messes up 50-50. Cheese gets a bit too close on low boost, has to recover, is in an awkward position, and then messes up the touch, and Garrett punishes it really well. Again, a nice little mix-up from Garrett, you know, you see it? Ah. What do we have here? Is this an air dribble? What's that? A high overcommitting aerial play? That's unfortunate. Fortunate fiddy-fiddy. Another unfortunate fiddy-fiddy. There's some stuff that there's some stuff that's kind of gone in Knights' favour as well. You know, like touches like that. There was that missed opportunity earlier from where Squishy saved it. You know, so sometimes it does just go against you on a day, but a lot of it is down to their habits. You know. Let's have a little watch of the next game. I'm gonna go down to the final game. Let's have a watch of that one. Nice bit of creativity there from Garrett. Again, it's quite all in though. So, I keep mentioning this all in stuff from NRG. What do I mean by all in? Well, these guys are in, at the moment, and a lot of the time when they're going for these plays, are in what I call neutral, right? So neutral game is sort of like right in the middle of advantage and disadvantage. So when both teams have, you know, a bit of boost, both teams have possession, neither team has strong possession of the ball, etc, etc. So that's neutral game. What these decisions that they're going for, the solo play stuff, is what you do when you're in advantage, right? So when you're in advantage, your opponents have low boost, so you can go for high aerial plays because they're on low boost, so they're not going to be able to defend it. Preferably you want to go for a bit snappier plays because otherwise it gives them time to recover and get boost. But what it will do is you want to be in advantage. Let me make advantage. So you want to be in advantage before you start going for these plays. Right now, they're doing advantage plays when they're in neutral game. So that means that they're going to be overcommitting because they're not the right decisions for this stage of play. When you're in the neutral game, you want to be doing lower boost plays. You want to be taking multiple players out of the game from your opposition. You want quick recoveries. You want to utilize 50-50s, fakes, and forces well. You want to be mostly aggressing as the first. If you start aggressing as the first too much and the second has to come in and do stuff, then it makes it very awkward. You want to have as many people behind the ball as possible. So preferably your first goes for the play and then your second gets possession, that kind of thing. And you're focusing on getting the ball and taking players out of the game. Sometimes you might even focus on intercepting your opponent's overcommitments and stuff like that. What's happening though, because they're going for these advantage plays when they're in neutral, off the back of them, they get put into disadvantage, right? So they get put backwards. So they'll go this way from neutral, and then it opens up a situation where the power is then in the hands of the opponents as to whether they score or not. And then I also have strong disadvantage, which has the opposite of that being strong advantage over here. Now, if you get into this position, you can score as long as you do the right touches, right? Like an open net, for example, is strong advantage. A demoed player with an opportunity to get towards the goal is strong advantage. So that's where, as long as the team with the possession who's in strong advantage goes for the right set of touches, they will score. So what's happening is they're constantly overcommitting in neutral, getting put down to disadvantage, then having to utilize their disadvantage back to neutral game mechanics, right? Which, to be fair, they're pretty solid at because they're quite often in disadvantage. So they're having to utilize the regaining of possession mechanics, which is here. But the problem is sometimes they're in such a bad disadvantage spot that it's really hard to do that, and that's when they get scored on. So sometimes they might even put themselves close to strong disadvantage with these decisions in neutral game. Knights also do a similar thing, but I would say they bring themselves from neutral to advantage a lot with good neutral game. But then sometimes when they're in advantage, they go a bit too far and they have a massive jump down to disadvantage, right? And this is where a lot of their goals came from, was where they were on the front foot and then just a little bit too much over commitment led them to a massive drop off down to disadvantage. Realistically, you want to spend most of your time in neutral or advantage, right? You want to be in neutral most of the time, and then when the opponents make slight errors in judgment, or you get a boost steal, you get a bump, you get a good set of solo plays or outplays, you then move up from neutral to advantage, and then when you're in advantage, you do advantage situation touches, get into strong advantage, then you score. Hopefully we can now see that in the gameplay here. So right now, neutral game, right? Squishy has possession of the ball. Everyone's kind of got a good amount of boost, and like it's pretty even both sides, right? Squishy goes to this touch. Fine neutral game touch. Goes to Justin. Justin gets 50-50. So we're in neutral game right now, right? Zombie takes control of the ball. This is good neutral game play by him, trying to get his team into advantage. Some good 50-50s both sides. And still a neutral game, right? Both teams pretty neutral. A bit of an opportunity here for NRG, but there wasn't really ever a threat that it was going to be a goal. It was kind of just neutral gamey. Good work by Garrett there. So you see how it stays in neutral most of the time, right? So right here, Squishy, low on boost, goes for a situation where he needs a lot more boost. Then gets called out for it, gets dunked. So then that ball goes booming away, and Garrett has... to be fair, Garrett could probably recover this situation a bit better. He thinks he can fly up to it, but that bounce is really awkward. But then now they're on the back foot, right? So their offense has turned into disadvantage through being in a neutral game where they need to break the opponents down, but they play it like it's advantage. Does that make sense? You can just see the decisions they're making. They're making advantage position decisions when they're in neutral game. Like right there, what should Squishy just do in the corner there? What's the neutral game decision play in that situation? Up the wall to waste time, play for the 50, just anything where you're grounded, right? I don't think a flick is the right option here, because that could get hard dunked, right? You want anything that's controlled. And right there, a 50-50 or taking it up the wall is controlled, because if you take it up the wall, you're grounded, so you can 50 it on there, right? But instead, they're playing for the beat, which is what you do in advantage, not what you do in neutral game. What else has happened in this game? So they're 2-0 up right now. What I will say is this is pretty nerve-wracking for any team. You know, like, I got called out by Jorias and a few other players a little while ago that I don't talk about enough what's going on in comms. Obviously, I was sat in these comms, so I got to hear what comms were like for teams like this. And I'll tell you now, if you're a team that's about to win against NRG in North America to make top 8 for the first time as a team, you will be a bit more panicky, right? Like, imagine the heart rate on these guys right now. Like, I was feeling the heart rate going, you know? So the comms did start to get a little bit panicky, and the decision making got a little bit panicky. And I think that'll be the case for a lot of teams. A lot of teams in finals, a lot of teams in all sorts of moments, right? So it's just a sign of passion, right? Like, if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're gonna get a little bit panicky, right? Like, you can see the touches, right? Sosa has been so good with his boost management, and you see how he's on 0 here. Cheese's touch here. See, he's a bit panicky, not just trusting the 50 from Zombie. Didn't quite get the double jump right, you know. So it does happen to every player when it gets a bit tense, is you start to make a little bit panicky decisions. You might also be thinking, we're 2-0 up, we don't need to score, and you see them, they turtle up a bit here. And you see there, like, Squishy's touch. Ah, a nice booming touch to the back wall, that's fun. Sosa gets that's a hard read to get there. But, you know, if he's feeling good, he'll probably get that, you know? So, yeah, it's just a little bit panicky. So, in conclusion, Knights look really good, but they have stuff to work on, which is always a good thing. There's lots of exciting things to come for the future for them. I'm definitely going to be following these boys closely as to whatever happens next. I'm a big fan of the three of them, and Lando's a good lad as well. You know, I say good lad, he's older than me. This team, the vibes is some of the best vibes I've seen in a team ever, and it was a joy working with them as a coaching consultant for a little while. And obviously, fair play to the Knights org for providing that support. And what I will say is, no matter who I am, who these guys are, no matter what, having two coaches seriously was a massive benefit. But that's the story of how I secretly coached a team to beat NRG. I'm angry. Give me my job back.